Hey guys, this is Swag and Play again. Welcome to episode 3 of our Halo 5 Force tutorial series in regards to scripting. This time we're going to go ahead and cover waypoints. Now, waypoints are very useful tools for drawing a player's attention towards a point of interest. It could be a player, it could be an object, it could be an objective. It could also be used to guide players and provide a little bit of exposition to explain to the player what needs to be done next. So let's go ahead and show you a brief demonstration on how we can actually add a waypoint to an object. So I programmed this terminal to add a waypoint with the friendly label attached to it. Now, this terminal was programmed to go ahead and add that waypoint to the flag, and we can also remove this waypoint on command or until the object or player despawns. So we're going to go ahead and press this terminal to command it to remove the waypoint, and therefore the waypoint has been disappeared again. So we're going to go ahead and recreate this step by step, and that way we can go ahead and show you a breakdown of how this works. Okay, so we have our two terminal objects here, right? And let's say for the purposes of this tutorial, I have one terminal that programs it to pretty much add a nav marker. And basically what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna pick the interactive event, and then on the list of actions, you want to go ahead and scroll to the bottom of the list and go to nav marker change. This is the action responsible for assigning waypoints to an object or a player. So nav marker change, you need to be pretty specific as to how exactly you want this waypoint to be placed and who gets to see the waypoint and how it gets to be seen. So it's pretty interesting how this works. Now the first label here that we have is players, and basically this is asking you which players can see this waypoint. And basically once you click players, it's going to show you number of parameters that you would like to add. This helps narrow down in a very specific way how an object would interact with another object, in this case assigning a label. So this section here shows you which players get to see this particular label. So we're gonna go ahead and pick players. Now this is a very basic parameter. It just means every player, living and dead, can see the waypoint, and that way we can go ahead and add that to the flag. Now we're gonna go ahead and head on to the next category, which would be change. Now this is asking you if you want to add a waypoint or if you want to remove the waypoint. So we're gonna go ahead and add it. Target shows you which player or object gets to receive the waypoint. So remember, only the players specified in players can see the waypoint. In this case, all players can see the waypoint because I didn't specify anything else. So we're gonna go ahead and pick our target, which would be that flag over there. So here, I'm gonna stop here and be a little bit more specific as to how exactly we're gonna go ahead and narrow this down. This flag, we're not gonna go too deep into this. We're gonna cover that in the next episode, but we're gonna go ahead and start messing around with labels a little bit. This is actually very important when it comes to scripting. This allows objects to manipulate each other in many different ways. So label is basically a trait that an object has. It can have up to 4 labels, and each label type pretty much gives it a role to play on the map. Like for example, this flag can actually be a spawn and return flag. This flag can be a regular capture the flag object. It could be a lot of other things. However, we want to go ahead and give it the CTF object for the purpose of this tutorial, and that way our terminal will know which object it needs to add a waypoint to, because this is a CTF object, and no other object on the map is a CTF object except for that other flag, which I'm gonna go ahead and remove so it doesn't get confused. And now we're gonna go back to our script. So let's go back to object properties, go to script 1, and go back to targets. So here, since we want the flag to have a waypoint, we're gonna go ahead and pick the parameter label add. And basically it includes any object that has a specific label of your choice. In this case, we're gonna go back to the label list and we're gonna find the CTF object, which is the same label this flag has. And that way, any player we'll be able to see a waypoint added to any object that has a CTF object label. So here we can customize how the waypoint looks. In this case, we can just mess around with the color. We're gonna pick a green. Here you can have the text that the waypoint includes, which can include numbers as well, but you can also include some random code words. There's actually a lot of words here that you can use, so we're gonna go ahead and use go. And this shows you the distance of the waypoint, like how far you can see the waypoint from. It could be 500, which is the maximum, or it could be 1, which is the minimum. So let's go ahead and pick 500 for now. And basically, once we press this switch, this flag is going to have the waypoint that we need, and all players can see the waypoint. But we'll get to this in a second. So let's go ahead, and before we press that button, we do want to add a script here to remove the waypoint on command. So we're gonna go ahead and pick the interacted event again, and we're gonna go all the way to the bottom and put nav marker change. So here we also need to be specific about who gets to have the waypoint removed, and we're gonna go ahead and simplify this by making it all players can see it. And we're gonna pick the CTF object again, and that way it should remove the waypoint from the flag. Alright, so let's try it out. Perfect, so now we have a waypoint added to it. You can see it up to 500 units away. I'm not sure what the exact distance is for that, but we set it up so we can see it up to 500. And then we can go ahead and push this button, and we can remove the waypoint. Now, sometimes you need to be a little bit more specific about how far you can see the flag. So we're gonna go ahead and cut it down to 50 units. And we're gonna go ahead and press this button again. Okay, so I can still see it from this distance, but if I were to walk away, I can't see it anymore. Once I approach it again, I can see it once again, and so forth. Now, if you want to be a little bit more fancy about who gets to see which waypoints, let's go ahead and narrow things down a bit and mess around with the parameters. So let's go back to our nav marker adding waypoint action. We're gonna go ahead and discriminate a little bit. So instead of picking all players, we can actually pick the activator object that triggered the event. In this case, the player pushing the button is the activator. An object can also be an activator under very specific circumstances. And basically, only the person who pushed the button would be able to see the waypoint. Now, you won't be able to tell here because I am by myself, but generally this means that only like the activator can see the waypoint. So let's go ahead and try something different. Instead of the activator seeing the waypoint, we're going to pick players of a specific team can only see the waypoint. So we're going to put defender, which is red team, and we're going to add players to those parameters, but we're going to go ahead and do something different actually. We're going to remove the players because then all players will be able to see it, and we're only going to include team add defender. So anybody who's a defender gets to see this, and you know, things stay the same. So let's see here. Boom. Okay, so I managed to go ahead and see this. Now, if I were to change teams, I can still see it because I'm in Forge, but let's go ahead and remove this. Wait a minute, hold on. Team active. Okay, so it looks like in this case we need to be a little bit more specific. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is go down to our parameters, and we're gonna put team include instead of team add. Team include, so that way it's going to exclude everybody who's not a defender. If you're not a defender, you can't see the waypoint. So let's go ahead and remove this. Now once again. Now the waypoint's there, but since I'm a blue team and attacker, I can't see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch to red team real quick. And now, since I'm in red team, I can see it, but blue team can't see it. So this is how it helps narrow down which players can see which waypoints. So this can definitely help out in a lot of different ways. So that's basically the basics of assigning and removing waypoints. That should definitely assist you in helping draw the player's attention to a point of interest. So stay tuned for episode 4, and we'll go ahead and move on to labels.